Now, what is that name again?
Hey, Mark, what's wrong?
Oh, I'm trying to remember the name of the next Bond book for our episode. It's the one with the gold in it.
Goldfinger?
No, we already did that one.
Oh yeah. It's oh, hang on. Oh, sorry. Are y'all hearing an echo or is that just on my end?
Yeah.
Guess on your end. we're live in PG.
Sorry, guys. All right. Okay. You saw nothing. You heard nothing. Okay.
They're still hearing, still seeing.
Is it still echoey, Kelley?
Hmm? No, I fixed it.
All right, let's reset.
Keep going. Just go with it. Hey, guys.
Okay.
You want to talk about...
Now, what is that name again?
Hey, Mark, what's going on?
Oh, I'm trying to forget that cuss word you just said, but I can't remember what. Yeah, let's start with. I'll start with the no. We already did that one, then we can edit it.
Okay.
Not for
No,
live.
we already did that one. Wait, what, Charles?
Not for the live show.
It's a live.
Well,
Yeah.
they're
We're
just
live.
screwed. They can deal with it.
Yeah.
Woo.
We love our fans.
Yeah, love you guys.
They love us. Okay. No, we already did that one.
Oh yeah, it's not Goldeneye, right?
No, that's not even a book. It was Ian Fleming's house in Jamaica.
Let's just throw some spy thriller words together with the word gold and call it good.
Oh, sounds nice. Let's see. Gold guns never die.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Cool.
Okay, then everyone grab your compartmentalized gun
And your high-tech Solex
and join us as we discuss James Bond here in the books.
and there in the movies.
Hi, and we're back. There's no music for the live one. Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
We're very sophisticated and high tech in this podcast.
Yes, we are.
Episode 13. More gold, more guns.
And here is a synopsis of the book. Bond may have a license to kill, but Pistol's Scaramanga has a talent for it. He is a KGB-trained assassin who's left a trail of dead British Secret Service agents in his wake. His weapon of choice? A gold-plated Colt 45. In the aftermath of his brainwashing by the Soviets, Bond is given one last chance to win back M's trust. Terminate Scaramanga before he strikes M16 again. Traveling to Jamaica under an assumed name, Bond manages to infiltrate Scaramanga's organization and soon discovers that the hitman's criminal ambitions have expanded to include arson, drug smuggling, and industrial sabotage. Worst of all for Bond, Scaramanga has a golden bullet inscribed with the numbers 007, and he's eager to put it to use. Under the heat of the Caribbean sun, Bond faces a seemingly impossible task: win a duel against the man with the golden gun.
Bum, bum, bum.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. So what were your thoughts, Mark?
I think this was a pretty solid book. It's actually, I just occurred to me that this is the last real chapter book in the series. The Living Daylights is just a collection of short stories. So I don't completely love it as a conclusion to the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it does all right. I mean, it's kind of a short little thriller and a good length. I like Scaramanga in this, although there's a lot of differences because Christopher Lee was my first Man with the Golden Gun. So like reading this book, he falls the character in the book kind of falls short of what Christopher Lee brings to the role. So what about you?
Yeah, I will say, I mean, usually it's the reverse. You know, the criminals in the book are so much more nuanced and they're so much more sinister and just deeper, more complex characters. In the movies, they like cheapen them into funhouse reflections of themselves. But I feel like it was kind of the opposite in this case for me. I mean, I think you're right. In the movie, he was a little more interesting. In the book, he was all right, but not terribly. I don't know. I mean, he had an interesting backstory, like the whole thing with the circus and his elephant and whatnot.
He was still kind of like a dull instrument to me. Like he only had one setting. There wasn't a lot of not complexity, but there wasn't like a lot of nuance to him. He was always kind of the same guy.
I know. I feel I keep comparing these people to Mr. Big from Live and Let Die, or and Dr. No from Dr. No. Like those characters were just so much more fleshed out. Their plans were just so much more evil. Like Scaramanga was just kind of at surface level. You know, you saw was what you got with him.
Yeah. What about the motivation with Bond? How did you feel about the first chapter or two, where he tries to kill M and nearly succeeds? And like that kind of struck me. It took me aback when I read it, because I was shocked that, you know, he would even be able to be that brainwashed to attack M.
Yeah, I liked that, actually. I mean, I felt like it was well written. It was a tense scene. I didn't expect it. I mean, we have a tendency to think of Bond as being above all that, like you said, but something I've always from the get-go, when we first started doing this 100 years ago, Bond in the books feels a lot more human. And so maybe it's just part of that Bond from the movies could never be brainwashed, because he's perfect and like never gets into trouble and never gets dirty and never gets anything, you know, but from the books, like he's a little more fallible. So if you think about it from that perspective, it's kind of cool that he was able to, I mean, not cool, like he almost killed him, but.
How could you possibly say that's cool, Kelley?
I know. I'm sorry. I take it back.
Yeah, I think a lot about, as a aspiring writer myself, like it's got to be hard to do a series. And I just announced on Good Bad Podcast recently that we're going to look at the MCU universe. And like with some of those characters, you have to take them back like 8 notches in order to have an engaging storyline and kind of build them back up. So I think it was a necessary step to kind of avoid the stagnation of Bond's character.
Yeah.
But
that is true. My one complaint with that scene was that I was so intrigued by the possibility that he could be brainwashed and that he could carry out this potentially lethal act. And then it was like they hit fast forward and all of a sudden he was just off again on his task for M to go find Scaramanga. And it totally, I mean, maybe they didn't need it necessarily for storytelling purposes to show him recovering. They were like sending him to, shock therapy, I think. And there was
That's
other
right.
things they had in store for him. Like I would have sort of been interested to see how that went. But it was like something was like a chapter was missing. In the Good Bad Podcast, you were talking about that happening in the Harry Potter movie. Like you felt like an integral scene was missing. And that's how I felt when they just sort of dropped this huge bomb and then, nope, it's fine. Like he's back again. And I don't know.
Yeah, it felt like the beginning of the movie, the Bond movie, where they dropped Blofeld into the smokestack.
I buy you a fine delicatessen.
Oh man, this has got to be the 8th time we've mentioned it.
Yeah,
but
it's too good.
It's so gold. It's worth it. More gold. I was just talking about that with some friends at work, and they're like, "He doesn't really say that, does he?" And I opened up the clip and showed them, and it's greatness. But you know, in that scene, they were like, "You've been battling him for multiple movies, and throughout your life, he's been your main antagonist." And the first 12 minutes is done, and we're going to move on with a whole new storyline.
Yeah.
I would have liked to see Bond struggle a little more with it throughout the novel too. You know, maybe just in terms of his internal monologue, kind of seeing him like thinking back to it. And he, you know, Fleming does mention it throughout, but I could have had more of that.
Yeah, I just it seemed like such a huge plot point to include,
Right.
and then to just leave it hanging there with no real. I don't know. I just wasn't satisfied.
Yeah, and speaking of being unsatisfied, this book does what many of the others do, in that his one job is to kill Scaramanga, right? That's all he's got to do. And he has all these opportunities to do it and doesn't take them. But then Fleming like writes it off pretty well.
Yeah.
And so I even wrote in my notes, I was just, okay, so here, I'll read this section. I said, at one point, I think he's driving, and James Bond got into the car behind Scaramanga and wondered whether to shoot the man now in the back of the head. An old Gestapo KGB point of puncture. A mixture of reasons prevented him. The itch of curiosity, an inbuilt dislike of cold murder, the feeling that this was not the predestined moment, the likelihood that he would have to murder the chauffeur also. These combined with the softness of the night and the fact that the sound system was now playing a good recording of one of his favorites, After You've Gone, and that cicadas were singing from the Lingam Vitae trees, said no. And so I wrote in the book, dumb, like I underlined it and just said dumb. But then in the next section, he goes on to say, but at that moment, as the car coasted down Love Lane towards the bright mercury of the sea, James Bond knew that he was not only disobeying orders or at best dodging them, he was also being a bloody fool. And so on that section, I underlined, okay, fine. And I, all right, I'm along for the ride still. But
that's
even
such a
so, even so throughout the series, like he talks about how much he hates killing in cold blood. And like, I don't know, which I guess is good that we don't want people to like killing in cold blood, but it would make his job so much easier.
Mm-hmm.
Come, Mr. Bond, you enjoy killing just as much as I do.
Yeah, I mean, that's why he has a license to kill.
Yeah, I know. I agree. But I really tip my hat to Fleming because he does write it off so well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, his writing is so hard to explain to people. Like when I talk about people, when I talk to friends or whoever and tell them that we're doing this, journey through the series and whatnot. Like I find it really hard to describe these books because there's so much about them that is, like we've talked about, hard to read through a modern lens. But at the same time, like it holds up so well in some other ways, like things that could be cheesy are not cheesy. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like that plays into that.
Yeah. I mean, you can't read you can't look at everything through a social lens, right? In terms of, like you have to apply that to it to some extent, but these do stand on this. These books do stand by themselves as really great thrillers and great writing. Yeah. But in terms of like the second half of the book, I think it's a pretty like, I don't know, like there's not a lot to the storyline at the end. He ends up they end up on a train speeding towards this place where Scaramanga is going to try to assassinate Bond. Luckily, Felix Leiter's on board and kind of helps throw a wrench in the plans. And Bond and Scaramanga end up in the jungle, and Scaramanga's been shot in the shoulder. And there's this really cool scene. Again, this visceral imagery that Fleming we've talked about is so good at, killing a snake with a knife, and Bond realizing that he still got some life in him. And there's this really great description of like Bond thinks he has the upper hand, and Scaramanga slowly we realize that Scaramanga's kind of delaying, and Bond is standing in the heat, whereas Scaramanga is in the shade, and Bond is starting to get worn down, and so these like the level is kind of the playing field is kind of leveled out, and but of course Bond ends up winning in the end. But other than that, like I don't know what can we talk about with the end of this book. It just kind of chugs along and does everything it needs to do.
It does. And I was really surprised. I don't know about you. When they see the body of Mary Goodnight on the tracks with the train, like hurtling towards her. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, and that got me. Like I was fooled by that. Like it ended up being like some kind of plastic mannequin or something. Yeah. But Bond thinks it's her. And then it even goes so far to say like he saw her head fly off its body or something like that. Like, oh my gosh. Yep. But then you're like, and so it's this very tense moment, and then they release it by Felix Leiter tells him like, oh, it wasn't her, it was a
Oh, that was great.
Yeah. So what did you? This was another rare instance of a book in the series that didn't really have a Bond girl per se. I mean, unless you count Goodnight, which I don't know if I do or not. Do you count? Because they're not really. They have this like flirtationship, kind of how he has with Moneypenny in the movies. But they don't really. I mean, there's some implications at the end that something might go on between them, but it seems more of like a friends with benefits type situation than in the other movies where it's more of a courtship. I don't know. I found that interesting.
I enjoyed her character. It seemed like at the end they sort of were implying they were going to maybe be together and Bond might settle down with her. But then I think in the last sentence, in fact, we can explore that if you want. The last sentence they kind of twist it to say he wouldn't be happy.
Yeah.
He says, James Bond, in the full possession of his senses, with his eyes wide open, his feet flat on the linoleum floor, stuck his head blithely between the mink-lined jaws of the trap, meaning Mary Goodnight's like flirtation. He said and meant it, "Good night, you're an angel." At the same time, he knew deep down that love from Mary Goodnight or from any other woman was not enough for him. It would be like taking a room with a view. For James Bond, the same view would always pall. Mm-hmm. So, meaning he's not ever going to be happy with the same view, the same woman that for the rest of his life.
Right.
Which is a little sad.
It is sad, and it kind of gels with how he's portrayed in the movies. But in the books, I feel like I don't know, maybe it's just happened to him too many times where he thinks he's found the one, and then somebody shoots her head off with a,
It's a golden gun made out of. Yeah.
But I don't know. It seemed more cold at the end of this. Maybe it's because it's the end of the series, and he's like, well, you can only do the fake promise of forever so many times. I don't know. Yeah.
It's kind of a realistic ending to the series.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so I would say for me personally, this would probably be in the bottom half of my favorite books, but not at the bottom of the pile. It's not one of my favorites. It's not one of my least favorites. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I agree. It might be in the middle of the top half, or no, let me put that in middle total. So like just edging 51%. My math is astounding, but like the bottom of the top half.
That makes sense.
That makes sense. Like I just enjoyed reading it. I enjoyed the last scene, and I like Scaramanga. I liked him as more. I kind of like simple bad guys sometimes. It's a nice little break from the Thanos type.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed it. And let's see. So there were, in terms of nukes or lasers, we've been keeping track somewhat throughout the series. In the book, there is no nuke or laser. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. But in the movie teaser, there might be a laser or a nuke.
Mm-hmm.
We'll let you know in the next 12 minutes. But so anything else you wanted to discuss about the book before we take a break for our sponsor?
Nope. That's all I had to say.
All right. We'll see you all in just a minute. This episode is brought to you by Fleming brand golden guns that are made of several different golden objects that can be put together.
Hello again, all you spies. Sometimes regular old guns can be a little too conspicuous when you're deep undercover. So try going with one of our Fleming brand golden guns that are made of several different golden objects that can be put together.
They can be any old objects. Just listen to some of our latest models.
A golden gun pencil case, phone stylus, and glasses case.
A golden banana, pineapple, and string cheese.
Wait, how would that turn into it?
Or how about a golden briefcase, house cat, and baby doll?
Come on, that's ridiculous.
That's right. Fleming brand golden guns that are made of several different golden objects that can be put together are the cure for what ails ya. Fleming brand products for you. And now back to the program.
As always, thank you to those fabulous sponsors.
Thank you, guys. We really appreciate Fleming brand and all that they've done for our podcast. Yeah. Hundreds and thousands of dollars they poured into this. All right.
Oh,
so, Kelley, do you want to read the movie synopsis inside of the book?
Sure. Okay. Scaramanga is a hitman who charges $1 million per job. He becomes linked to the death of a scientist working on a powerful solar cell, and James Bond is called in to investigate. As he tracks down Scaramanga, he realizes that he is highly respected by the killer, but will this prove to be an advantage in the final showdown?
All right, and here's the trailer.
What do you know about a man called Scaramanga?
The man with the golden gun. He always uses a golden bullet.
This trinket was sent with a note requesting special delivery to you.
I've never seen Mr. Scaramanga. Mr. Bond, this is impossible. I can't...
I can't tell you. Don't kill me.
Who?
Scaramanga.
Roger Moore, back in action in the exotic East as James Bond, 007, on a collision course with the most dangerous man alive. The man with the golden gun.
Hold on, sir.
James Bond, on the job. The girls are willing.
Dreamed about you setting me free.
The pace is killing.
Stay in there, good night. We've got you spotted. How about a demonstration, boy? Certainly, sir.
Sheriff J.W. Pepper is back.
JW. Demonstration, boy.
The worst.
Is he, though? Because to me, he's the best. In
It's
terms of caricatures, like...
It's debatable, Mark. It's debatable.
You'll meet old friends and new enemies. It's non-stop Bond. The action is spectacular.
You're not. I sure am, boy.
Reaching a new high for 007.
Bonjour, Monsieur Bond. I am Nick-Nack. Monsieur Scaramanga will welcome you personally.
The target is the highest priced killer in the world. He plays a deadly game, and the stakes are sky high.
All right. That was the movie. This is one of the great... To me, this is like one of the more iconic movies that James Bond is kind of known for. And it's got... It pulled out a lot of stops with the car that turns into a plane, with the jump in the bridge, the spiral bridge jump was amazing. And it just like this movie probably more than any of the others really like shot me back to my junior high, renting these 5 at a time from Blockbuster and just binge watching before binge watching was a thing.
Yep.
James Bond movies. So.
Yeah. And it's no secret in this podcast that Roger Moore is not my favorite Bond, but like, I feel like this is him at his peak Bondness. It's I think his second one that he did. Is that right? Just after Live and Let Die.
Yeah, I think so.
And he looks very Bond-like in it. He's at his most handsome, I would say, and he's just very debonair. And so,
You guys are crazy.
that being said, I don't think it's a great movie, but I appreciate many things about it. I'll say that.
Our producer Charles is calling us crazy. Why do you think so, Charles?
Roger Moore at his peak? He was better in Live and Let Die.
Peak?
No, I would say the Spy Who Loved Me, he's at his peak. personally. That's his best. I think that's his best Bond. And I think this is one of the worst Bond movies, actually, personally.
Really?
Yeah,
Why?
I do. It's so cheesy, and the whole thing with the third nipple and the disguise, and I don't know.
Yeah, well, that is in the book, though. I mean,
Sorry, I didn't mean to derail you.
That's all right. No,
It's not the worst, but it would definitely The Spy Who Loved Me is so much better as far as a Roger Moore movie goes.
Well, what do you look for in a James Bond movie? Like, what are you expecting out of the experience?
Cool stunts, I don't know. I mean, I guess I do like Christopher Lee as the bad guy. I mean, you always like that, but I don't know. It's a little too over the top for me. I think this one gets more silly.
Yeah, but I think it works on just kind of epic, operatic. I can control the sun and turn it into a laser gun, and with the Solex. And I like. I don't know. I just think it works for me. The carnival type stuff in his apartment when he kills his victims. He's got the weird mirrors going, and the kind of laughing, and what's the little person's name?
Well, I can't think of it either.
Knick-Knack or something.
Controlling it. I don't know. It's just.
And then the sheriff is back, and I didn't like the sheriff.
JW.
I didn't like him from Live and Let Die.
Yeah, no. It felt like they were trying to. I thought he was just going to make a quick little cameo, the sheriff, and then it was like he came back, and then he didn't leave for a really long time.
But you gotta wonder if that's from Smoke. I mean, if Smokey the Bandit copied this movie, because it's very similar caricature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just for me. It's like a shameless play. Maybe this would be more ugly, but I just liked it. Even JW, to me, he's a perfect caricature. That's all I want. Just what did he say? He was a little racist. He kept calling them pointy heads or something. All of the
yeah.
Which that didn't quite age well, but then Roger Moore, you're not gonna do that, are you? I sure am, boy. And I don't know.
He's a hot mess. Nothing can compare to the greatest boat chase ever filmed.
That's true. Was he in it? Was JW in that too?
He was.
Right?
Yeah. Yep.
He was chasing him down, trying to get him to.
Yep. That was when we were first exposed to his greatness.
JW. So.
And his fingerless gloves.
Yeah. One of the things people point out about this movie was that it was the first time you really had an Englishman as the villain, right? Like it's kind of like the dark twin of Bond, and I think they handled that well in the movie with the script and them talking at the dinner table about the difference between them and why Bond chooses Queen and Country and why Scaramanga chooses to be an assassin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Okay, so we talked a little bit during our book discussion about how Goodnight, wasn't quite a Bond girl, but she was something in that arena. But in the movie, her character was still in it, but they stripped away everything that was charming about her. Like they always do this. Like they take any kind of semi-interesting female character and they just strip it down to nothing but stereotype. And it annoys me so much. They did the same thing in Dr. No, and I don't know. They just do a disservice because she was she was very unlikable and whiny in the movie, but she wasn't that way in the books at all. Like she was kind of a, his girl Friday kind of a character, but she was relegated in the movie to being shoved inside a closet. Like they were about to get together and have sexy times, and then this other lady came in and he shoved her in the closet, and of course she had to sit there and listen to the entire thing.
Away you go. And she fell asleep. Yeah. But yeah, that's pretty rough. But before that scene too, even this is what bothered me was they were like having drinks out on the outside during the calypso dancing or whatever, and she tells him no. He basically puts his moves on her, and she tells him no, and says, "I'm not just going to be one of those girls that you sleep with for one night." And I was like, "Oh, okay, cool, yeah." And then in the next scene, she's in his room and like, just kidding, she's. I didn't understand that. I was like, "What? You just went one way, and now you're going the opposite way." It's like, "Oh, we're just giving lip service to this, this idea," but really, she's there, and it didn't even make sense logically, let alone socially and progressively.
Yeah, I know, because no woman can resist Bond, Mark. Of course.
That's true. Yeah.
No means yes. It's all fine,
You can resist him if you just say you're resisting him, and then go into his bedroom.
50,
exactly.
50 knows and yes is still yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Family Guy.
That one. Yes. Yeah. I'll leave that to Charles. So there is a laser.
Yep.
He controls the sun. Again, we see the kind of the Bond villain plots echoing what the current fear is, and this was like an energy crisis and solar energy coming onto the scene, which is kind of cool, but turning it very Bondish. But again, Mary Goodnight at the end, she's the one who kind of screws everything up by throwing the henchman's body into the warm stuff and changing the temperature and making everything explode.
Of course.
So.
And that just annoys me so much. But to your point earlier about the kind of funhouse scenes, I did. That was probably my favorite part of the movie, was those, and it wasn't really like that in the book, but I thought it was kind of cool to add in, because he had this. For those who haven't seen it, it was very. So Scaramanga's background is he came from the circus and he was some kind of elephant handler or something, and the elephant was being mistreated, and then a police officer. It was like rampaging through the circus and whatnot, and then a police officer shot it and killed it, and so he killed the officer. And so anyway, they kind of didn't go into that, but they kept the circus part of his backstory. And so now in his island lair, he has this whole funhouse, mirrors, kind of Dali-ish surreal thing going. It's almost like the most dangerous game. He brings assassins there to practice hunting them in pursuit of his ultimate target, who is Bond. And he has a wax figure of Bond, and I feel like they telegraph pretty well that he's going to end up taking the place of the statue. You know what I mean? Like, it's no surprise at the end when Bond actually like pretends to be the wax statue and then comes to life and shoots him and whatnot. But yeah, those scenes were cool, I thought.
Yeah, to me, I mean, when I asked Charles, what do you expect, like, from a Bond movie, not saying you shouldn't expect anything good or quality, but like, I just like this as a shameless fun. There's a midget and a golden gun that's made out of cool little trinkets put together, and
yes. Which, by the way, that golden prop gun looks like it's made out of cardboard in the movie.
Did it? I don't know.
I thought it looked like paper mache or something, where like you could poke a hole in it. I don't know.
No, it's the most deadly weapon ever used.
Yes. How silly of me to forget. Oh, all gosh.
Right. Well.
So what are we talking about next time?
Well, that is a good question, because we've got one more book, Living Daylights, and it encompasses Octopussy, The Living Daylights, The Property of a Lady, and 007 in New York, which sounds fun. So here's my vision: is we do both movies, so Octopussy and The Living Daylights, with this book, and then maybe do an extra special episode at the end where we explore all the leftover movies that we haven't discussed yet, that didn't have a pairing with the book. So
I like that.
Cool.
Let's do it. I'm kind of, even though we were on no kind of regular schedule with this, I'm sad that we're wrapping it up. It's coming to an end. Yeah.
Maybe that's why we took so long to do this. We just didn't want it to end.
2020.
That's right. We were savoring it.
Yeah. what? Charles, you shush.
Yeah.
So, the last thing we have to do is discuss who did it better, the book or the movie. This is gonna be a hard one for me. I haven't really thought of this. Do you have an answer yet? Off the top of your head?
I think I'll still go with the book for me. I think the book did it better.
I'd rather watch the movie than read the book.
That's fair.
Just for nostalgic purposes.
I think that's valid. I think for so many of us in this age range, like we grew up watching them. Like I watched them all with my dad, and so it just, you forgive a lot of stuff because it has sentimental value.
Yeah. All right. I was just looking at the quick synopsis for Octopussy, and it's him tracking down Nazi gold. It's gonna be fun.
More gold.
Yeah, more gold, more guns.
Mm-hmm.
All righty. Well, we didn't do an outro for the Good Bad podcast, so
we kind of did. We said laters, baby. I said.
Yeah, but I mean, in terms of like social media and stuff.
Oh, I guess that's true.
So you can check everything out at itsjustawesome.com, and you can get Good Bad Podcast at Good Bad Podcast, all one word, on Twitter and iTunes.
And then this is Here and There. Is it Here and There series?
It's Here There series.
That's the Twitter. How do you do it on iTunes? What is it on iTunes?
I think it's the same.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm not sure, to be honest.
It's only been a year, guys. We should know.
Yeah. Well, sorry. Maybe someone will let us know.
No, I got it here. Hold on. No, I don't. But yeah, I do. Here and There.
One word or no?
No, all three different words.
Okay, so if you do Here and There on iTunes, that's how you find it. But Good Bad Podcast is all one word. So depending on which podcast you want to listen to.
All right. Cool.
Good job.
Well, thanks, guys, for tuning in. And thanks to our live viewers. Sorry for the little mix-up there. That was my fault at the beginning. I will own that.
No problem. So go out and get yourself a Fleming brand golden gun that is made of different things that are golden that can be put together. Yes. And we will see you next time.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.